Are affirmations helpful or as useful as prayer in terms of tricking one into thinking one is creating results? Affirmations are helpful to allow you to see possibilities that you probably wouldn't see before. It's like this. Life is going to go a certain way. Certain experiences are going to happen. But how do you relate to those experiences? What affirmations will do is give you a capacity to relate to those experiences in a healthier fashion, more optimistic fashion. It will allow you oftentimes to benefit in ways that you wouldn't before. It's hard to describe, but let's say, for example, you're going through life and you have a challenge of some sort. And your affirmation, what it can do is it can allow you to see certain opportunities that are available to you. If you have affirmations for positive experiences, what that does is it opens up your awareness to see other avenues, other routes, other possibilities. But if you're locked in a state of doubt or difficulty, you are less likely to make a choice which will allow you to respond better within an experience. So if you think about experiences as having so many different ways of looking at it, you can go through life and you can say, oh, I'm so poor, there's nothing I can do for myself. And so therefore you don't actively go out and look for a job, or you don't try to manage your money well. And that's what your life happens to be. But let's say, on the other hand, you start out poor and you decide to say, there are plenty of opportunities for me out there. And yeah, I can have more money than I've got right now. And so you start an affirmation, and what happens is you start to see opportunities. Oh, this person has a landscaping business and they need someone to join them for the summertime. Well, I'm going to go do that. Now, it's probably not going to make you $1 million and wealthy, but now you're working. Now you are earning money. You've got more than you had before. So there is this, in my experience, there is this latitude. And so you can hit the lower portion of the latitude, the most difficult part of the latitude, or excuse me, not latitude, the lowest part of the experience or the highest part of the experience. Again, I use this example of my wife and my experience with her. We could have gone through a year and a half being utterly miserable, just so focused on the fact that something that we had experienced together was about to be blown apart. And we could have been depressed out of our minds for that year and a half. Or we used plenty of affirmations. We used plenty of prayer, which allowed us to rise to the highest portion of that, which is why, when the doctor had sent us home, he told us directly, he said, look, many people don't do this very well, and they don't do it very right, but you two are handling it as good as best you possibly can. It did not change the end result, but it changed the experience while things were happening. So in my estimation, my understanding, what affirmations do is that if you have a window, or if you have a degree of possible experience through a circumstance, oftentimes what the affirmation does is it lifts you up to the highest possible part of that circumstance. So in my mind, this is what affirmations do, which I feel is very helpful. But I don't in any way hold the assumption that that's going to change anything, alter a divine plan. Now, another question. Help me learn to surrender when I'm meditating. Help me learn to surrender while I'm meditating. There's no way I can help you learn to surrender while you're meditating. You have to figure that out. The only thing you can do that I know of is whenever you're meditating, you develop your technique well enough such that you can become as calm and clear as possible. And then you may have to utilize your willpower to stay alert and upright and consciously let things go. Just, I let it go. Whatever comes up, I must do this. No, let it go and trust. But you see, before you get to that point, you've already done You're already sitting in your meditation posture. You've already done your pranayama. You're already alert, and yet your body is relaxed. Now all you're having to do is simply observe, have the self-awareness of your mind, such that whenever something comes up and says, no, you must do this, or no, this must happen, you stop, and your self-awareness gives you the space to say, I let that go. I let that go. I let that go. Until eventually, you don't have to say it anymore. And you simply exist in pure consciousness. I wish I could perform a miracle such that I could make people surrender. You are surrendered. No. That's your path. You have to work that out. Why can't you let go? Work on that. Ask yourself, why can't I let go? Why can't I surrender? This takes a lot of subtlety, inner subtlety, and meditation can help to provide the foundation, the space for you to explore that, but you have to explore it. It seems we shouldn't have to affirm or ask for anything. I completely agree. So, don't. Imagine if you could simply say, I trust in the wholeness of life to support me. But that doesn't mean that you just sit there and wait for things to happen. That means that you wake up and you say, I trust for the wholeness of life to support me. And you sit quietly and still, and you wait for inspiration. And inspiration may be get out of bed and go meditate, and that's all there is at the moment. Inspiration may be go do your taxes. Inspiration may be go to the store and plan a meal for your parents. That is the inspiration that arises, but it's up to you to engage it. So you're right. You shouldn't have to affirm or ask for anything. It's a false sense of control. But if you're not there yet, if you're not in a place where you can be surrendered, then you try to come up with all these affirmations to help keep you focused and uplifted so that you are receptive to that inspiration, which will allow your life to blossom in its highest potential for you in this lifetime. Did you do the affirmations right after meditation or any time after? Again, when I would do affirmations, to me, it didn't matter, because if I did them before I meditated, the way I would do them actually acted like a meditation technique, because that's all I was focused on. So it allowed me to bring my awareness together. And then if I meditated after that, well, if there was a fertile field at any time, it's meditation. So those would vibrate into my meditation practice, if you want to think of it like that. Doing it after is fine too. Why? Because you've meditated, you've become clear, you've already entered that fertile ground of possibilities. So that what you do right after it will also fertilize it in a way. So personally, I don't think it really matters, because affirmations themselves can also be a very effective, powerful, profound meditation technique just by themselves, because they're working on the principles of effective meditation. Bringing up an idea, a feeling, a sense, a word, phrase, something to focus on. Hold that at the exclusion of all else. What are you doing? You're meditating. Another question. So you recommend to use more than one affirmation at a time. I always used one for 1 month, then a month for another, and so on. It depends on you. There are many things, many projects in my life. I'm into a lot of things, and so for me, it was no problem just to do 4 affirmations at a time. But they were all also kind of synergistically related. It wasn't just scattered. Usually there was some interweaving of them. If 1 a month works for you, that's ideal. If doing 10 keeps you satisfied, that's fine too. But you have to be able to recognize the limit where you are actually engaged in it and have the capacity to benefit from it. So you don't just do 100 mantras. You really want to focus on the ones that are most likely to sprout. again, the idea of gardening, it's probably better for you to plant tomatoes and peppers because they're going to grow throughout the summer than it is to try to keep planting broccoli and kale because that's a cold weather crop. So you want to pay attention and do the affirmations that are most appropriate to your current stage of life, and you want to stay focused. So you don't want to do so many that you're scattered. The reason I used 4 or 5 is because, again, there were 4 or 5 specific projects or things that I needed to keep centered on. When there's not that many, I focus on 1 or 2.